deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that he should give his only Son to make a wretch his treasure. How great the pain of searing loss, the Father turns his face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. No power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. Why should I gain from misery more? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart. His wounds I paid my ransom. Why should I gain? Why should I gain from misery more? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart. His wounds I paid my ransom. Yes, this I know with all my heart. His wounds I paid my ransom.
We are impressed very often by all the wrong things. In John 2, everyone was impressed with the physical temple. It had been undergoing construction for over 4 decades already and was not even finished. It reminds me of the Ken Follett novel, The Pillars of the Earth, that narrates the construction of a European cathedral that literally stretches across generations of construction workers and craftsmen. Some projects in days gone by were so grand, the person who laid the first brick just knew that if one day the final brick got laid high up on the spire of a bell tower, It might very well be his great-great-great-great-grandson who put on that finishing touch. In John 2, Jesus makes room again in the temple for the truly spiritual business of the place to happen in ways that had not been possible once a commerce and a flea market had taken over. What Jesus did literally shook things up. And so the leaders asked Jesus to produce some credentials to authorize the bold and brazen thing he had just done. Jesus said, "Destroy this temple and I'll raise it up in 3 days." A ridiculous claim, of course, if someone were to be able to raise the entirety of the temple edifice only to have Jesus wave a magic wand over the ruins and restore the whole shebang in a scant 3 days, that would have been impressive and beyond. If a person could pull off such an architectural and engineering feat, that powerful action would be more than enough to validate any power or authority he might be claiming for himself. Jesus does that. It happened to him first so that all may follow. That is the one who stood in the midst of that allegedly impressive temple that day in Jerusalem. No one saw him for who he was. No one recognized him, nor what he was really saying. But one day, we will all see him for who he is. The message of Lent and Easter assures us of this. And the Apostle Paul will later tell us, when we see him, we shall be made like him. Thanks be to God.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the sun sets free, who is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, who is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child There's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. When the best of me is barely breathing, when I'm not somebody I believe in, hold on to me. When I miss the light, the night is stolen. When I'm slamming all the doors you've opened, hold on to me. Hold on to me. Hold on to me when it's too dark to see you. When I am sure I've reached the end. Hold on to me when I forget I need you. When I let go, hold me again. When I don't feel like I'm worth defending. When I'm tired of my pretending, hold on to me. When I stop to break in desperation, underneath the weight of expectation, hold on to me. Hold on to me. Hold on to me when it's too dark to see you. When I am sure I've reached the end. Hold on to me when I forget I need you. When I let go, hold me again. I could rest here in your arms forever, 'cause I know nobody loves me better. Hold on to me. Hold on to me.
And now for the reading of our scripture lesson for the day from John 2, 13 to 22. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then responded to him, "What sign can you show us to prove your authority to do all this?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." They replied, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you're going to raise it in 3 days?" But the temple he had spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said. Then they believed the scripture and the words that Jesus had spoken. But he was speaking of the temple of his body. The religious people that day didn't get it. They didn't understand that he was talking about the temple of his body because they were about business as usual. It was business as usual that day, the day that Jesus showed up at the temple. Animals were being bought and sold, coins were being changed, all the usual people had their usual places and their usual roles. This is one of those stories that we need to set aside a couple of things. Things don't belong, things that distract, before we can really understand what's happening. We need to set aside what we have often been told or thought this story is about, so we can hear it again, and maybe for the first time. I don't think this story is simply about Jesus getting angry. Jesus got angry. I get angry, you get angry. It's okay to get angry. If we think this story is about Jesus getting angry, we have missed the point. There's more to this story than that, and I don't think it's about the animals or the money changers being in the temple. Surely, Jesus must have known they were there. He grew up as a faithful Jew going to the temple. He didn't show up on this day and say, wow, there are animals and money changers here. I didn't know this. It's wrong. The animals and money changers had always been there. That is how the system worked. It was business as usual for them to be there. I think Jesus went to the temple that day for one purpose: to throw out and overturn business as usual. There are times when we need the tables of our lives overturned and the animals thrown out. It's just so easy to fall into the trap of business as usual. Have you ever gone out and pushed the autopilot button and knowing that your life would become mechanical? You go through the motions, you show up, but you're not there. That is business as usual. How about this? Have you ever had that I'm good and everything is fine smile, but behind the smile there was an emptiness and a hollowness, and your heart was breaking? That's carrying on with business as usual. Or maybe you wake up in the morning and you're exhausted, just as exhausted as you were when you went to bed the night before. Business as usual. Have you ever felt like you were just not yourself? Nothing seemed right? No enthusiasm, no wonder, no imagination? It was business as usual. The things I just described are not, however, the problem. They are the symptom in the same way that the animals and the money changers in the temple are not the problem. They're the symptoms of something much deeper going on. The problem is not so much in the temple as it is in the human heart. That deeper issue is, I think, what gives rise to this business as usual. Sometimes it's about fear. We're fearful about what's happening in our lives or the uncertainty of the future. And we want some type of security and predictability so we can just keep on doing the same old things. Business as usual, it's predictable and steady, but it creates only the illusion of security. Sometimes business as usual is a symptom of our grief and sorrow. Something's been lost. We can't get back the life we want so much to cling to, and that's business as usual because it's familiar, and we want some stability. Other times we're so busy and worn out making a living that life turns into one task after another, one appointment after another, a never-ending to-do list, and it's business as usual. And I do not say any of that as a criticism or a judgment of you or me or anyone else. I'm just naming what often happens to us. What has business as usual looked like in your life lately? In what ways is it business as usual for you this day? I think that business as usual happens because we forget that we really are the temple of God's presence. And as soon as we forget that about ourselves, life becomes business as usual. I think that's what happened in the temple. They didn't see themselves or one another as the true temple of God. It was all about the human-built temple, the animals, the coins. They had forgotten that God was more interested in them than in their festivals, and that God wanted them more than their offerings. That's why Jesus is angry, overturning tables and driving out the money changers. Throughout the rest of the gospel, Jesus will be interrupting business as usual. Remember the Samaritan woman at the well? She's had 5 husbands. She's not living with a man. She is living with a man who's not her husband. Despite what we have done to her, that's not a statement about her. It's just another example of business as usual. Her first husband died, divorced her, or ran off. Who knows? What we do know is that whatever happened to her was improper. It was dangerous then to be women without a man. Business as usual meant she had to belong to a man. So there was a second man and a third man and a fourth man and a fifth man and a sixth. Jesus meets this woman at the well and interrupts business as usual. It's not about the man or the men in her life. It's about her. Jesus recognizes her as the temple of God. The temple of God is neither on this Samaritan mountain or in Jerusalem. She is now the well of living water. How about the man that spent 38 years on a mat? He was paralyzed and always trying to get into that pool of water that would heal him. But someone always got there first. The same ground, the same mat, the same paralyzed legs, the same failed effort. It was 38 years of business as usual for him. And then Jesus comes and says, "Stand up, take up your mat and walk." And the man did. He rose to a new life, and business as usual had been interrupted yet again. And then there's Lazarus. He's been dead 3 days already. Martha knows the stench of death is present. Jesus tells her it will no longer be business as usual. Take away the stone, he says. Death will not have the final word. Lazarus, come out. And let's not forget the 5,000 people that show up empty and hungry. Philip is sure there's not enough. There's no way to feed them. Empty and hungry people are business as usual. But Jesus has other plans. 2 fish, 5 loaves. Those things are more than enough, and everyone was satisfied, and there were 12 baskets filled with leftovers. It was not business as usual that day for the empty and the hungry. Repeatedly, Jesus interrupts, disrupts, turns over, and throws out business as usual. Business as usual is destructive of our lives and relationships. It destroys our ability to see and participate in the holy that is already present in and around us. The Word became flesh so that the temple might become human. And Jesus continues to overthrow and throw out business as usual, because the truth is, there are still Samaritan women waiting at the well in our world. There are still lame people grounded by business as usual. Empty and hungry people are still a reality in our community, and there are dead people waiting to be made alive. Maybe for you today, this isn't about other people. Maybe you know today what it's like to be grounded and paralyzed. Maybe you are empty and hungry today. Maybe you need to be called to life. Maybe business as usual needs to be interrupted in your life. Regardless of who we are, what we've done or left undone, or how we see or judge our life, we are the temple of God, and there is one who stands in the temple of our life, interrupting business as usual. So tell me this. What does the temple of your life need today? What tables in your life need to be overturned? And what animals need to be driven out? And I'm not asking about what needs to happen so that you can become holy or become the temple, but so that you can see that you already are the temple and claim what is already yours. Jesus does not make us into something we're not. He calls us back to who we've always been. He was speaking of the body of our temple.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my turn till I made. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my turn, yeah, till I made. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. Listen, the old made new. Jesus, when I met you, oh, what a day when you called my name. Come on, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. This is my story. This is your story. Come on, listen. I needed rescue. My sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter. I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future. My eyes are open. 'Cause when you call my name, shout it, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You 2017. Let's hear it. The loudest shout you got in you. Give it to us. Come on.